Okay, you guys are my witnesses that no canines are in here yet. I hope so. If not, the presentation kind of stinks, actually, if he doesn't. Can everybody hear me okay? Well, good morning. I'm Carlos Espinoza, work with the Sheriff's Office. I'm the captain in charge of the drug unit. I don't normally wear this. I did for you guys, so you're welcome, and the sheriff made me. But I want to talk a little about drugs in the workplace. You can see my presentation essentially is going to be about heroin, because quite frankly, heroin is what we're fighting with today. That's the number one thing that we have in our community. We still have plenty of marijuana. We still have plenty of cocaine. We still have plenty of meth, Molly, which is MDMA or ecstasy. We have methamphetamine. We have plenty of other illicit drugs. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about some of them. Fentanyl is a big thing that's going on right now. So in a group this size, there's no doubt in my mind that either someone you know in your family, certainly someone that you know is a drug addict and has addiction with some sort of pain medication. Someone in this room, there's no doubt in my mind. It's too many. It's becoming ridiculous. Last year in the United States, over 62,000 people died as a result of a drug overdose. The numbers in Orange County, which by the way is more than shot, car crashes, accidental deaths, 62,000 overdoses is by far way more, and the numbers go up every year nationwide, which is why the president has put so much emphasis on this drug overdose stuff now. It's why we're getting grant money. You heard the governor talking about it not very long ago. And so they're trying to really dump some money into treatment, but the treatment options really are kind of sad right now. In Orange County a year ago, we had maybe 24 treatment beds for people that were indigent. Now we have 40, which is better. It's improving, but it's still not what it needs. You hear the numbers of the deaths in Orange County. 2015 is when we really started noticing it. And last year, you saw our total overdoses. This year, we're already probably about 18% above our numbers year to date. We say this all the time. It's not a problem that we can arrest our way out of. That's the number of arrests, heroin related. Now, this could be for possession. This could be for trafficking, sale and delivery, things of that nature. But basically, we're seeing this. The focus for law enforcement, it remains on the suppliers and the dealers. I say that because we have to kind of change our mindset a little bit. When you're talking about safety in the workplace, remember that we have a lot of functioning addicts, whether it's alcoholics, people that use alcohol, whether it's people that are on opiates. And I think what you're going to see, and if you pay attention to the news, you're going to see a lot of people talk about opiates, and they'll say, you know, we have an opiate problem or an opioid problem. And doesn't that sound nice? Because, you know, an opiate is, you know, like a medicine. Doctors give you opiate. It's heroin. Heroin is dirty. Heroin's for prostitutes. Heroin is for like nasty, you know, criminals. It's a heroin problem that we have in the United States. It's a heroin problem we have here in Orange County and in Central Florida. The reason that we have this problem is that people over-medicated. Doctors gave us a bunch of hydrocodone, a bunch of Oxycontin, and people became addicted to it. The doctors will tell you that now. It's scientifically proven that we know it. The problem is now they can't get their medication anymore. We did such a good job destroying the pill mills and going after the doctors who were illegally prescribing medication. People can't get the medication they got used to, and now they're still in pain, or they think they are. So we're trying not to go after the person that's in possession. We're trying to go after the dealers and the suppliers and get those people taken care of. It's difficult. And looking at that person who is a possession as a sick patient, you wouldn't tell someone who has cancer, you wouldn't say, oh, they're a scumbag, they have cancer. But we would say that about a drug addict. Well, the fact is, most of the people don't want to be addicted to that drug. They just are, sadly, and they can't break that addiction. It's very difficult. So we started the Heroin Task Force back in 2015, which is, I mean, if you guys, you know, most of you are close adults here, no young people I don't see. When you get the mayor and the sheriff to start a task force together, there's a big problem. And now you think about that. We did here locally. People are actually copying what we did now throughout the United States. The sheriff, and I give him a lot of credit, him and Mayor Jacobs both, they saw this as a problem and they said, hey, we need to try to get out ahead of it. And Orange County is by far leader. Our jail, for example, tries to help addicts. Over 7,000 people went into jail last year that said that they had some type of heroin use issue. We're trying to get ahead of that by giving them Vivitrol, by giving them other drugs that block that, by providing them with treatment. Narcan. Who's heard of Narcan or naloxone? Okay, a lot of you. Now all of our deputies carry it. We're giving that to people now. CVS and Walgreens sell it. They used to not be for sale. We actually show up at a lot of search warrants now, drug search warrants, and we see it on site. Because the drug dealers are keeping it on site so that the people don't overdose. They can inject them right there. If they drop out, they can inject them and bring them back. So the task force brought a lot of stuff. It's brought several different disciplines together, which is the big thing. These are some of the achievements. Naloxone to all law enforcement. Year to date, we've actually deployed it well over 200 times since we started using it in July of 2016. And that's over 200 lives. It hasn't worked in every single case, but I want to say in like 97%. I think we've had like 4 to 8 cases where the person was too far gone and they died. But in well over 200 cases, the deputies were the first ones on the scene and were able to give this drug. So again, you talk about workplace safety. I don't know what everybody's job is with doing, but naloxone, keeping some of that on hand, I can guarantee you, especially if you have public restrooms where the public is allowed to come and use your facility somehow, keep some naloxone on hand. You could save somebody's life. We increased the bond amount for drug traffickers. We wanted to show the significant, we got to hit these people in their pocketbook a little bit. Not that it's not supposed to be punishment, but we convinced the chief judge to change that, and he was gracious enough to do that for us. The trafficking in fentanyl bill became law, something that Sheriff Demings pushed hard for. The governor signed it into law last year. Now if you have fentanyl, before you could have a truckload of fentanyl and we couldn't do nothing to you. Now it's the same as heroin. You could be charged with trafficking. If you have 4 grams of it or more, it's trafficking. Fentanyl is coming over here. It's produced in China. It comes over through Mexico and some through Canada. But it's really what's killing people. If our medical examiner were here, he would tell you that. Last year, of all the deaths that we have, even in Orange County, regardless of where they are, it's the fentanyl that's killing people. Don't get me wrong, heroin will kill you as well. But what's actually killing these people in almost every case is that they're cutting the heroin with fentanyl. And it's because it gives them a better high. It also puts them at risk. Fentanyl, if you don't know, is a legal drug. It's a synthetic drug. It's an opiate. It's a synthetic opiate. It's not natural. It's created, and it's what they give cancer patients. And it's to help them with their pain. Okay, so it has a good purpose. Problem is it's abused. Carfentanil, if you know what carfentanil is an animal tranquilizer. It's a large animal. It's what they use to put down elephants and rhinoceroses. So the only place in Orlando that you can find that is Disney World, the zoo in Animal Kingdom. It's the only place. Well, luckily they haven't had any stolen from there yet, but we do see it from time to time, and you'll see it's extremely dangerous. Just a very little amount can kill you. And we were looking at some of the vendors out there, the gloves, the mask. Law enforcement has had to change. Whenever we come across an unknown substance, now we have to treat it like it's fentanyl. 2 years ago, I couldn't even tell you what fentanyl was. Now I can tell you we see it daily at our search warrants. And the stuff is no joke. Just if it gets in the air, it takes a very small amount and it will kill you. We've had officers at search warrants that have had a little bit. When they closed the bag, it got airborne, and they feel like, man, I can't breathe. Something's going on. And it's because they ingested a little bit of it. Luckily, they didn't die. And we keep doing joint operations. The dark web. Anybody here know dark web? More people are starting to know what the dark web is. Okay, we have one drug dealer up front here. And no. The dark web, for those of you that don't know or don't want to admit that you deal drugs like this gentleman and I, it's the internet. And I'm not going to explain the whole thing to you, but basically you can go on the dark web and you can access it through your home computer. And once you get on the dark web, you can buy young boys, young girls, guns, heroin, drugs, prostitutes, whatever it is you want to buy on there, you can buy it on there, and you pay through Bitcoin, correct? You pay through Bitcoin? You got a big Bitcoin account? You shouldn't have raised your hand, my friend. You shouldn't have raised your hand. So Bitcoin is how they pay for the stuff, and I learned about it a couple of years ago through in a DEA school, and it's crazy the stuff that goes on there. Very, very. But the dark web is where a lot of the stuff is. These transactions are going on, and even though we may not know much about it, there's plenty of people that do. Fentanyl, these amounts, if you think of these containers and look at the amount, those are basically like what they say, a grain of sand. So if you look at what the carfentanil is, about a grain of sand is enough to kill you. Obviously, heroin, it's about the size of, and that's what a heroin hit is. Basically, your typical heroin hit is about the size of your fingernail, thumbnail, depend. That'll cost you about, here in Orlando, between $5 and $10 for one of those hits. If they add fentanyl and carfentanil to it, it increases, obviously, the intensity of the high. But now remember, that's not made in a lab. That's some idiot in his garage who says, okay, I'll put this into this and mix it up. So you might get a batch that has a little bit of fentanyl in it, or you might get a batch that has a lot of fentanyl in it, and then when you snort it or you inject it, you're going to die. But it's being added to everything. We're seeing it added to marijuana now. They're adding fentanyl to marijuana. And I'll tell you this, I've been doing this for 27 years, and, crack cocaine was a big deal in the 90s. Heroin was actually here in the 90s too, and then it went away. But crack cocaine has always kind of been a big deal. Marijuana has always been king, but this heroin stuff is crazy. The amount of money, and all drug dealing is about money anyway, the amount of money that you can make in this, if there's any entrepreneurs that are looking to make some more money, if you could drive to New Jersey, anybody from New Jersey? Okay. You drive to New Jersey, you spend $60,000, and you can get a kilo of heroin in New Jersey. So you drive it down, it takes you, 20 hours or whatever it is, about 18 to get down there or up there. When you get back, you could sell it here for 85. So, a couple tanks of gas, and you make, why are you taking notes, sir? I'm not sure why you're writing that down, but I'm watching it. At any rate, 25 grand, just like that. Now you start cutting it, and you add stuff to it. You're going to make off of that initial investment, and she's just getting the $25,000 for bringing it down here. They're going to make $250,000 off of that investment. There's too much money to be made. Just last week, we hit a house. Domestic violence. A lot of you probably know Chris Rock. The Chris Rock video. He got weed. Domestic violence. The guy hit his wife. Shouldn't have hit her. After he went to jail, she goes, hey, he hides dope in his car. Well, we searched the car. We didn't find any dope. And she's like, no, it's hidden. And we're like, oh. So we brought one of our canines over there, and the dog found it. 500 grams of heroin hidden in the wheel well of his vehicle. He had some more. We had brought dogs like that. That's Ronnie, and that's Cy. Ronnie's the one that can talk. But they found it in his car, buried in his backyard. She goes, I know you bury stuff in the backyard too. We ended up finding well over 1,000, over 1,000 grams, 800 grams of heroin, 300 grams of cocaine. That's over $1 million street value. So either she better get out of town or something bad's going to happen to her when he gets out of jail. So this stuff is lethal. Some of the challenges to the success, a lot of users don't seek help. They know they're going to get sick, and that's true. If you have employees that maybe you're trying to get help for, they're going to reoffend. There's a group of people that don't reoffend typically, or the highest success rate for treatment are doctors. Doctors who are opiate addicts. They have the best success rate. Do you know why? It's the carrot. They know, and the people that treat them tell them it's because they have something to lose. So for some of us, what we have to lose. If I told you, sir, hey, if you drink that cup of coffee, I'm going to take you to jail, you might go, okay, I won't drink it then, right? So is that he doesn't. Depends what time of the day. It depends what time. Early in the morning, like, take me to jail, bro. That's it. I don't care. But that's the point. The doctors have their medical license. their families, they have other things. A lot of the people, if you think about what a user might look like, or if you know any, they don't have that. They're like, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything. There's nothing to hang over them. So sometimes jail, incarceration is the only thing that we can use to hang over them. So believe it or not, we try to do that to get them help. And I think if any of you have family members or know someone, you'd agree that if it's not court ordered, they're probably not going to get the help on their own. So we try to do that. Treatments necessary. We talked about the big obstacle to overcome. Successful prosecutions. It's just part of the territory. There's too many good lawyers out there, and there's too many. Sadly, there's not as many good prosecutors sometimes that can take these people on. There is something real quick that I'll tell you too, especially for those of you, as you're training your employees or something. We call it the Good Samaritan law. There's different things it's called. And if you don't know, you don't know. Don't be embarrassed. But if this lady started to overdose right now, let's just say that she and I are both drug addicts and we're both addicted. So we both shoot up drugs and we both, I get high and she falls out. But I call the police and I go, hey, my friend's having an issue. I don't know what's going on. I call 911. She needs help. Can I get charged? Needles, drugs, everything. No, exactly. Neither one of us can get arrested. Not for possession. Now, you can get arrested for other stuff. If she has, 10 warrants and, 50 guns in her house and they're all stolen, she can get arrested for that. But nobody can go to jail for calling for help for someone else that's having a drug overdose. Not the caller or the person who actually overdosed. So neither the victim. And a lot of people don't know that, so I like to share that because please call. We want you. The reason that law got changed about 6 years ago now, is so people would get help. These are the deployments. It saves lives. This is what we have to do. We have to keep trying to find ways to, especially the addiction problem, and to look at people as recovering from an illness versus that they're criminals in some way. In Orange County, we average about 3 overdoses per day. This past weekend, we had 13. Saturday and Sunday, 13 overdoses. And it's throughout the county, by the way. It's not like people go, oh, yeah, that happens on Paramore Street. I think on in the bad parts of town. No, it's happening everywhere. I can buy heroin. Well, I don't. Ronnie can buy heroin everywhere in Orange County. And Charlie back there, hey, Charlie back there, he picks up prostitutes. He doesn't buy heroin. But, well, I mean, when he's working. For real working, not, So we need to find a way to combat it. This is what we do at the sheriff's office. These are our people that work undercover. We have a tip squad. It's what their name says. They go out and they work tips. They do the stuff that, you call and say, hey, I think my neighbor's house, I think they sell dope. Those guys go, they knock on the door. They go, hey, we want to see if we can come in. A lot of times people let them come in. If they let us come in, we find something we're not supposed to find. Most of the time, nobody goes to jail. We take the drugs and we go, hey, we're going to have to report it to the state attorney. The state attorney may or may not be issuing a warrant for your arrest. You're not supposed to have this stuff. Thanks for letting us come in. Sometimes they say no, and we have to do other stuff, and it depends on what it is. A lot of times, one time it was a cop's house, and he has 2 kids that are special needs. And so they're both very bad off. So they have constant around-the-clock care. There's always nurses at their house. Well, the guy's like, why are you coming? Well, one of your neighbors called, so there's always people coming in and out of your house. Well, yeah, there are. They're nurses. So it was totally legit. We obviously do undercover operations. We work with our federal partners, assist with public awareness, things like this we try to go out and do. We have an overdose squad. We had to create a squad. How ridiculous is that, right? We had to create an overdose squad. And remember, guys, we're only doing all this because of the overdoses. People are dying, so we have to do something. And our overdose squad responds to overdoses. Most people don't want to help us. When they'll lie to us, it's crazy. They almost died. They're like, who sold you the dope? We don't want to come after you. We just want to come after whoever sold it to you. Nope, because they know they're going to get sick again, and they're going to need to go back to that dealer. So we do things that we try to help them. And then our parcel interception team, which Ronnie works on and Charlie works on, and that's why they're both here. They don't work true undercover stuff anymore, but they work on our parcel interception team. Our parcel interception team is a thing we have with FedEx, UPS, and DHL, and the freight lines. By the way, who's the number, if anybody works for the post office, I'm sorry, who's the number one shipper of drugs in the United States? The United States Postal Service delivers more drugs than anybody else in the world, really. And in their defense, they got so much stuff that they can't possibly do it. But our private vendors try to work with us, and these guys work with them every day, and they intercept packages every day. And it's a misconception. A lot of times, it's the agents who find the drugs. They find the packages. I won't tell you how, but they have it down to a science. These guys actually go around the country teaching other people how to do this. If you put them in the post office for 15 minutes, it's amazing to watch them. They'll find 10 bags of dope, 10 boxes of dope very quickly. And then they go get their canine partners, and their partner confirms what they suspected. It's very cool to see. But that's the parcel interception team. That's what they do. What can we do? If you see something, say something. You hear that all the time. Please, please, please do that. If you remember back years ago, Nancy Reagan used to say no to drugs. That didn't work. But it was a great thing. Everybody knows about it. Say no to drugs. See something, say something is the new thing. We would rather come out and it be nothing. It'd be that cop's house that has 2 kids that need care than it be a drug house. So if you see something suspicious, please say something. Follow the safety protocols in your industry has. That's a big deal. Pay attention in public places, particularly public bathrooms. You guys up north in Boston, Catholic churches have to close their doors because the people are going to shoot drugs in their bathrooms. And they're passing out and overdosing in their bathrooms. Public parks. We're doing it here now in Orange County too. Starting to close down. Places that used to be open restrooms, we have to close them down because they're using them to shoot up drugs. By the way, this is just my opinion. They're talking about creating safe havens to where you can shoot up drugs in a safe haven. I'm so against that. I don't know. No. Find another solution. Not saying, oh yeah, just shoot it up right here next to me where you're protected. That's such a bad idea, but whatever. And then hold your elected officials accountable. These are some of the other drugs that we still have plenty of. Like I told you earlier, synthetics are just man-made drugs. These people that are very smart and sit around making up new drugs all the time. And before I get into questions, I'll say this. And it's a little bit unrelated to the drug topic, but in your industry, who's heard of run, hide, fight? Hopefully all of you have heard of run, hide, fight. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a workplace violent encounter, I cannot stress to you enough, and I realize that you don't do the same kind of work that we do. Have a plan. If you cannot envision yourself taking your pen and driving it through somebody's throat, start thinking about, if you go, oh, I just couldn't do it. Well, think if they were shooting up everybody else in this room. I used to, even though we're required, and I know the sheriff is listening, I used to not take my gun every single place I went. There was places I wouldn't take it to. Just when I was off duty, I just wouldn't take my gun. There's no place that I go without a firearm now. It's because you watch the news, pay attention, be prepared. I realize that you're not all cops. Think about what you would do. Run. The first thing you should do is run, get away. If you can't get away, try to hide. Try to hide. If you can't hide from an assailant, try to do that. But if you can't, fight. And I say fight, get to a level of anger and a level of violence that you may not be able to envision yourself in. Envision yourself in it. Think about a weapon of opportunity. Are you able to take this chair and smash it over this person's head? You could do that. If he's shooting everybody else, why not pick up a chair and hit him? He can't. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. Think about it. If you never think about it, I guarantee you won't do it. They say the body can't go where the mind hasn't been. So I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm just telling you to be prepared, right? It's about safety. Tell your employees. People go, Carlos, that sounds so mean. That's so violent. Well, if somebody walked in here with an AK-47 and started shooting at us, well, that's kind of violent. Think about taking yourself there mentally if you have to. It might save your life one day. Okay, before we get into questions, this is Master Deputy Ronnie Bradshaw, his partner, Cy. You saw me hide something in the room earlier. Let's see if Cy finds it. Man, that dog is so lucky he sat down right there. Ronnie, you want to explain to them a little bit of what you're doing and why?
That there was just a quick drug sweep for what we do. That was that?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see it when I looked under there, so
I pushed it kind of back.
these dogs, tremendous smell of the way they smell. No way we could do this job without us. I can do this entire room.
You want to bring them out in the crowd?
My news. It's not a time what it takes. The whole time he's looking, he's not looking for dope. He doesn't understand what dope is. He's looking for his ball. But we taught him his ball no longer smells like a tennis ball. His ball smells like ice. Now you lost it. His ball smells like his toy. It doesn't even have to be a ball. His toy smells like drugs. We've conditioned him to believe that that's his ball. I can hide tennis people, they often ask, what if I just put tennis balls in our car? That's fine, he's not going to alert you. He doesn't get rewarded for that. So he'll sit there and he'll look for the ball, for his toy. When he finds it, he alerts me immediately. And sit down, it's fine. Get along. Believe it or not, that's the kind of drive you gotta have. We go through, we tried to do the donation program. And I've looked at, in the last couple of years, we've had several dogs we've had to replace. We'll look at 100 dogs to try to get them to a 180-hour course. And I think I found two that I even tried to start it with, and neither one of them made it. They have to have that kind of, if I throw that ball 100 times, they gotta come get it 100 times. There's no doubt about it. Being part of the personal interception team, I've always said that we don't catch the smart ones. For 30 years I've been in this job. 27 years handling a dog. 30 years we don't catch the smart ones. And this takes it to a whole new level. Because now we'll get these boxes, we'll pick the ball, dog confirms it, we ride the warrant, we've got dope, we're gonna go try to give it to you. And 8 out of 10 times, some knucklehead will be standing there going, yep, that's my box. We'll be right back. Got Charlie and Odie in the back. That's a brand new golden retriever we got. He's only 16 months. He's fixing to certify here in the next few days. He'll check out and be part of the program. There's 6 of us. We work, like the captain said, FedEx, UPS, DHL, and all the freight companies. So for only 6 of us, that's a lot of work. And we take off more drugs than the entire drug unit combined with just 6 of us.
What these guys do and what our parcel team does, and you saw Cy just do a lot of people think, well, they have a dog that just walks on a conveyor belt sniffing drugs all day. Well, that's not what happens. And again, I won't go into the exact details, but basically the agents identify the packages. And it is kind of interesting to watch, when I go with them and watch how they'll watch 15 boxes go by. They look like boxes to me. I'm like, okay. And they'll be, get that one. And I'll be like, well, wait a minute. That one looks exactly like the other 15. Why that one? He goes, yeah, just get that one. And we'll grab it, and it'll be dope in it. And it's funny how they've learned over the years to do that. And then they use their canine partner to confirm it. And then based on that, we can get a warrant for the box. So it's that simple. And I know that people go, well, you can hide it with coffee grinds, right? You can hide it with, go ahead, put whatever you want on it. The agent is the one that finds it. The dog just confirms what's inside. And the dogs do different things. You saw him, Cy sat down. They do different things. We have one that's a pointer. Guess what he does? He points, right? So Ronnie's one of our, actually I think we have there's two or three of you in the agency that can teach people to do the dog handling stuff?
Actually, we got almost 30 dogs in the agency total. There's probably about 8 to 10 trainers.
Okay.
And we got 3 or 4 evaluators within our campus. We train our own dogs. Talking about the smell and what they do. Just a quick explanation, talking about the coffee grinds, the mustard, the fabric softener sheets. I've seen just about everything, grease, axle grease. If you were to get pizza delivered to your house tonight, all right, you're not in the room, but you come out and your wife, whoever, kids, whoever, is serving pizza, you might walk into the room and go, hey, pizza's here. I smell pizza. And the dog is walking in the room with you, we got pizza. And it's got pepperoni and mushrooms and green peppers and cheese. And I don't know who that was that put it together. I don't know who that was that delivered it, but he could smell everything. It's right then, distinguish all those odors. So if you wrap all your cocaine in a bunch of axle grease, mustard, the dog's sitting there, there's cocaine, there's my ball, there's my toy. Oh, it's wrapped in some axle grease and it's got some So it's all kinds of odors that they can distinguish right away. And, they're invaluable. Invaluable.
Do you have any questions for us? Sir? Yeah. Flocka is a synthetic drug. We haven't seen a lot of it here in Orlando area. There was a lot of it down in Miami. Miami, it was crazy. It's a synthetic drug. It's basically like a synthetic marijuana. But remember, this is man-made stuff, and that Flocka was making people crazy. Some people were calling it and confusing it with bath salts and things like that. But no, it's like marijuana essentially, only 10 times more potent. I was telling Michelle at the beginning, the marijuana, and some people, in a group this size, people have obviously tried marijuana or experimented. Maybe you still smoke it today for medical reasons, right? And it was funny because I was on the board when we did all this medical marijuana review, and they ended up not listening to the police. Obviously, the police were all against medical marijuana, not saying that it doesn't help some people in certain things. And I know that Mr. Morgan will have you believe that, a bunch of handicapped kids and little babies and everybody's dying from their seizures and not being able to have medical marijuana. I'm not trying to make light of that because I know it's a real thing. What I'm saying is, though, is that in the meetings that I go to, and it's filled like this, there's maybe one of those people. Everybody else looks like the rest of y'all. And they go, yeah, but my back, my back is just, I have chronic back pain and my PTSD. So I have to smoke pot because my PTSD and my back pain is just, whew. And that's how it gets abused. And it will become a recreational drug here in Florida. It's just a matter of time. And it will get abused. And you will crash into each other because they are going to get high and try to drive their cars. But the marijuana nowadays, and Flocka, we haven't seen any in Orlando in probably 3 years. It's just been, even in Miami, they're not even seeing it anymore. It was so bad. Remember, drug dealers are marketing, right? They want to sell their product. Nobody was wanting to do it because they was getting so messed up on the Flocka. So it went away. And that happens with drugs. It went away. So we hardly ever see it anymore. But the potency level of the marijuana that you're seeing today, what these guys take off, is way more potent than the stuff that you guys did when you were kids or in high school or college or whatever. It's already naturally more potent. And then, now, who's heard of dab or the honey oils, right? Butters, shatter. That's all. They take, in marijuana, the hallucinogenic or psychotic part of the marijuana is the THC that's inside the marijuana. Well, Charlotte's Web, that's what they give kids that need it. It has a little bit of THC, but it's such a small amount, it couldn't get you high. That's what they give the kids. That was the medical marijuana that was approved actually like in 2014 or 2013. Now, the stuff that's full blown, it has THC in it. They take the dabs, and that's all they do. If you go down to Knox Nursery, they'll show you how they do it. Well, they won't show you, but they show us. They show you how to do it. And they're doing the same thing the drug dealers do. They're extracting the THC from the thing, from the plant, and then it's probably when you put it in what they call dabs or honey oil or butter or shad or whatever they call it, it's probably about 70 or 80 times more potent than you think of a normal hit. So those of you that have tried, I've never tried it, but those of you that have tried marijuana at some point, if you go, okay, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. That's not the same weed we're talking about today. Just natural weed, that's not the same. And then when you start doing the honeys and the oils and things like that, that's taking it. You see them vaping. You hear about the kids now that even, Schumer's talking about in New York about the Juuls. The kids are vaping in school, marijuana, in their little vape pen, the little Juul. They want to outlaw those. So it's a big deal. Yeah, big deal. Any other questions for Ronnie or I? Yes, ma'am.
What do you think the gateway is for all this heroin use?
Well, for the heroin use, and I think I said at the beginning, it's the pills. The people got addicted to the pain relief. Heroin, it's a natural pain reliever. It's just abused, sadly, right? But I think the pill mills, without a doubt, I think everyone would tell you that, doctors, everybody that's in the industry would say that they got used to we didn't realize how bad. People just weren't dying. The only reason we're paying attention to it today is because people are dying. When people were abusing the medication, that was a money issue. People saw that and they're like, hey man, people are abusing this medication. But we really didn't have a bunch of people dying. You didn't hear about overdoses on OxyContin. Not that you can't, but they just didn't hear about them. And we didn't have 60,000 people dying a year. We just had doctors it was illegal. So we went after them, and we did a good job of crushing them. The doctors have been on board and helping, but now we created this void where these people still need it. I'll tell you this, for example, the average age of a heroin user is 24 to 35, of an overdose is 24 to 35 years old. Those are the people. White males, 24 to 35 is who's dropping. 2 years ago, I never even saw somebody in their 60s. Never saw somebody in their 60s. Overdose on heroin? Never. Today? Yeah. Now, it's not happening at the same rate as that 24 to 35-year-old, but they're using, and they'll tell you, their wives are telling us, this is a 60-something-year-old guy. Yeah, he doesn't get his pain medication anymore. A friend of ours told us that they do heroin. So we figured for $5, why not go try it? So it's, remember, it's an opiate. It's on how you sell it, right? But that is absolutely the problem. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for those you didn't hear, he's talking about getting away from opiate-based narcotics, basically to help people, because right now it's what methadone is like the big thing to help people to get off of that, which is a opiate. So I was in a meeting on Friday, and there's actually not that many that have been FDA approved yet, other than, and they're all opiates. Suboxone, I think it's called. There's another one. Vivitrol is another one. But those are blockers. But the methadone, they still say is like the best one to get you off of it. But they just came out with a new product. I don't recall the name of it. And it's literally brand new. I found out about it on Friday. And once we start getting that, and it is not an opiate. And that's the best thing they say it's going. And they say it works better than Suboxone and some of these others. So as soon as the pharmaceutical companies start marketing it to people, I think you're going to see. But in the field, they are saying exactly what you're saying, that you need to find something other than an opiate to treat them for opiates, because they're just abusing that now. Yeah, oh yeah, they immediately want and just so you'll know too, because I go to a lot of these doctors' conferences, most of the medical people are saying, I think now they've changed it to 3 to 7 days. No more, they don't give you pain medication. If you go to the doctor, try to get it, you won't get a month prescription of pain medication. If your doctor is giving you that much, you might want to question them about it, especially if your kids or someone that you know. Say, hey, do they really need 30-day supply? Most of them are just giving you a 3-day supply. And that's, you should feel better in 3 days if you don't feel better. But yeah, no, it's a good point. Yes, sir.
I appreciate you mentioning vaping. Have you seen the induction of drugs into the vaping system yet? Any cases that you've dealt with now?
Yes. Yeah. On the dark web, remember, dope is about money. It's absolutely 100% about money. It's a business. Like Ronnie says, we catch the dumb ones. We miss a whole, that's a good business.
If we suspect we have a problem in our workplace, how should we engage?
Well, I would not tell them. The best thing to do, if especially, I don't know if you're in Central Florida. I know it's Central Florida, but I'm talking about if you guys are all Central Florida people. Crime line, that 423 tips, 407 423 tips. If you call that number, 100% anonymous. And I say that because a lot of times people will call me or they call the sheriff and they go, hey, you know, I got a buddy that's selling drugs, or I think he's selling drugs or using drugs, whatever. In court, I may have to say, hey, you know, it was Alexander's the one that told me, Judge. He's the one that told me that, you know, she was selling drugs. I might have to say that. But if you call Crime Line, then he is 100%, he's out of it. I really don't even know who he is. I see a number. I have no idea who called in the tip. But we can go put somebody in jail. So absolutely. But if you see somebody, don't confront them unless you feel like you should. If you think, call your local police, say, hey, I think so-and-so's using. You'd be surprised. I can't tell you all the ways that we do it, but there's a lot of ways that we can go about investigating it. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. Some people think it does. We don't find out overnight. It's very seldom. Yes, vaping is big, and it's on the dark web, and we get a lot of it with marijuana, with dab in it. Yes, ma'am. You had your hand up. The only way that she said, how does it compare to other counties for drug use and overdoses? They chart it through the Drug Free Coalition office charts that. I want to say we're like, well, I will tell you this. We were number one in the United States. In February of this year, the DEA came down and met with us and they said, hey, per capita, Central Florida, number one in the U.S. in drug overdose deaths. But the problem with that, and to answer your question, is difficult because that's how you report it. I can tell you that we at the sheriff's office, we report our stuff like we're supposed to. It's like any other crime statistic. You can sit there and say, oh, well, you know, how many car burglaries did you have? Well, if somebody labels a car burglary as a petty theft instead of a car burglary, then are you really getting that number? Or they say it's criminal mischief or, you know, damage or trespass. So it all depends on the reporting. So I would say that our state has a drug problem. Our state has a heroin problem, which mirrors that's in the country. And I know that's not the great answer, but it's hard for me to say because I know that the reporting is not accurate. And for example, we're higher than, and not to beat up on anybody who's from Miami, but we're higher than Dade County. And there's just no way. It's impossible that we're higher than Dade County. There's just no way. It's a reporting issue. I got time for like one more question probably. Yes, sir.
How many fentanyl-related injuries do you have to the public that aren't users, say residual in a restroom or anything like that, people with kids? Do you see a lot of that in the area?
I missed the first part of the question. How many what?
How many fentanyl-related injuries do you see that are from non-users, residual left over somewhere and someone brushes by, touches it, anything like that?
We have not seen any. I know of, like I said, there was two. One was ours, one was OPD, where we suspected fentanyl. In one case it was fentanyl, in another case it wasn't, so maybe just their mind, they thought it was fentanyl. We have not had any residual outside effects that's been reported that I'm aware of at all. I'll tell you this though, talking about residual stuff though, and Ronnie, don't let me forget this. I'd hate to leave this cocaine here for these people. Well, maybe some of you, sir, you want to hang on to it or are you good? You can give it to him. You guys can deal with Bitcoin with him on the end. I will say this residual though, and I'll wrap it up with saying this. When people look at drug crimes, they say it's not a violent crime, right? I would agree with them. If you sell me drugs, it's not a violent crime. I would tell you though that every search warrant that we go to, there's guns. And I would tell you that all of the home invasions that you ever hear something about a home invasion, robbery, that's drug related. There are no legit home invasions. They're all drug related, period. These people will shoot at each other and then say, okay, I don't want to press charges. So it is a violent crime. The residualness, it would be in the other crimes. People go, well, my son's an addict. So my son will steal from me. My son will steal from you. He'll steal from you. He'll steal from you. He'll break into your car. He'll prostitute himself. He'll take a gun and go stick it in somebody else's face to get he's just trying to get the $5. You look at our homeless population. A lot of our homeless population, a lot of people you see on the streets asking for money, as soon as they get $5 or $10 together, you won't see them there. And it's because they're going to get to their drug dealer to go buy that fix, and then they'll come back. Prostitution. Women will sell themselves, and some men, but mostly women, who will sell themselves for $5 to go get that next hit and do all sorts of nasty things for that money. So that's where I see the residual effect, not in anybody getting hurt like that, but in all the damage that it causes. And those of you that have family members or friends, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where they will steal from you. They'll get tired of stealing from you, they go steal from your parents. They'll get tired of stealing from your parents, they'll go find some, and everybody feels sorry, right? So we try to help. And that's where the other crimes. You know how many burglaries occur because of drugs? How many robberies occur because of drugs? How many other violent crimes occur? So in that way, it's residual. I need to end it, but I'll think real quick.
Those homeless people that are coming up, like that I for,
Yeah.
you recommend giving them money or not?
That's, I say WWJD. WWJD. Because if it's WWCD, I don't give money to homeless people. I don't give money to homeless people. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't help other people in other ways. My wife and I both give to other legitimate causes that we know are going to help people directly. I don't give money to homeless people on the side of the street. I tell them I take their signs from them, and I tell them they got to go because it's against the law. Thank you very much.